Hello everybody and a very warm welcome back to the latest episode of Hidden Jewels of Soul and Disco. And this week we will be featuring a special album. We will be featuring an album which is considered as the lost album of hip hop. We will be featuring Lightnin Rod. Lawrence Padilla, aka Jalaluddin Nuriddin, aka Alafia Pudim, aka Lightnin Rod, aka the godfather of rap, was born in 1944 in Brooklyn. He was one of the founding members of the Last Poets. And if you're into rap, if you're into hip-hop, you should absolutely check that group out, because they were working the groundwork, the fundamental, the basis for hip-hop and rap to come a couple of years later. In 1973, Alan Douglas, who was famous for producing the likes of Jimi Hendrix and Miles Davis, offered Jalal, so that's how I call him, the chance to record or release an album on United Artists. So that's what he did, and the outcome was Lightnin Rod and the Hustler Convention. And here it is. Why is this album considered the lost album of hip-hop, and why it was a flop when it was released, and why it has such a great afterlife, especially after 2015, we will discuss that after you've had a listen.
And hustle all the chumps I could find. Well, now they call me sport, cause I pushed the bar short and loved all the women to death. I partied hard and packed them in. Night we would play poker, talk, and coon can. Soon Spoon got good at his old new livelihood, and now we were ready to deal. There was money to be made. This cards weren't marked. He shuffled and deal with nerves like steel, commanding our quiet respect. After receiving my hand, I signaled to my man to open up indirect. Spoon.
This album is funky as hell. It has some tight beats on it, and it's actually all the time spoken words from Jalal, who tells the story of the two pimps, Spot and Spoon. So what happened with this record? Actually, it has been sampled numbers of times. The Beastie Boys, Wu-Tang, Ice-T, many people took this as a sampling basis of countless times, and many people started their rapping career, their hip-hop career, because of this album. Jalal was a little bitter about it because he said all these people who took so much from this album never really gave back. He had 2 sequels to that album written down, but there was actually no one who gave him studio time, who paid for producing and releasing the sequels to this album. But why wasn't it a hit back then, when the work was so groundbreaking? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First of all, the songs performed on this album had a very explicit language, so radio time was 0. The next thing was, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it, is that Alan Douglas played the spoken parts to likes of Kool and the Gang. And they said, hey, we are onto it. If you want to use music from us or want us to write music for these parts, we are totally spot on. So what did they do? They went into the studio, recorded the tracks, and pretty much that's it. Alan Douglas, coming from the music business, should have known one important fact. Contracts and paperwork are everything in music business, because everybody wants a piece of the cake. And I do understand the artists that they're like, when they're creating art, they're not thinking of contracts or anything. They feel like something creativity is happening and they're creating something good or awesome. But a producer like Alan, in my opinion, should have known. So what happened was, a couple of months after this was released, like I said, no radio time, when it was released, Delight, where Kool and the Gang was under contract and they're really having their breakthrough in 1973, was suing United Artists. Or at least they were telling they would sue them because they wanted a piece of cake. They said there's no paperwork, you are using our musicians, our artists to create that. We need to discuss this. So what did United Artists do? They thought about the situation and were like, well, okay, we have an album which sold less than 20,000 copies. It's an unknown artist, it's not the big seller, it's not getting radio time. Do we really want to put money and effort into lawyers, into contract discussions? Do we really want to do this? Let us think about it a moment. No, we don't. So actually, a few months after its release, it was licensed off and withdrawn from the market. That was pretty much the story. But anyway, this album became legendary among the people who lived on the streets because the story were their story and it was true and it really spoke to the people. So during the years, this one became the masterpiece it is. But unfortunately, it never really got the recognition it should have. In 2015, Chuck D, also a rapper who was also inspired by this album, did a documentary with Jalal. And unfortunately, I'm not living in the United States, therefore I can't see it. But I can only recommend that you watch that documentary. It tells a great story of shattered dreams, of the American dream, and how this album changed or created a genre in music. So Jalal continued to appear in the music industry, like for example in 1977 when he was releasing Delights of the Garden with the Last Poets, where he also created stunning work. But this one actually and always stands out. So let's have a look at the record, I would say. This is the front of Hustlers Convention. This is the back. So if you put it out, you get a beautiful shot of Jalal, Lightnin Rod, Lawrence, however you want to call it. And also Buddy Miles is included on this record, Billy Preston, so you get some really, really tight beats on this. Also, on the first issue in 1973, you get a little biography about Sport and Spoon, and which is unfortunately not included in my record, but I have the Hustler Convention card, where you get the whole story, the songs, the lyrics, with pictures. Hold on. You get that told. Isn't that gorgeous? So United Artists really put some effort in this record. I think they really, really believed in that concept, but you know, sometimes things are not just meant to be. So let's have a look at the record. So this is side A, this is side B. So you would think now, okay, sold 20,000 copies back in 1973. Maybe 10,000 copies are gone by now. So yeah, it's not the holy grail of hip-hop music, because if you want to, you get this record between 30 to 50 bucks. So what I do believe is that there are sold more than 20,000 copies. I think when they withdraw the album, license it off, they had some rest stock, which I think you can see the cutout, were sold cheaper in the stores. And I think they sold a tremendous amount of these, because you can get this album if you want to very easily. And I can't recommend this album enough. It's one of the more obscure records in my collection because it's all spoken words, but it's a fantastic, great, underrated record. So if you find it somewhere, go and get it. Stream it on YouTube, stream it on Spotify. I promise you, you won't be disappointed about Lightnin Rod. Jalal said, I wish I wouldn't have put Lightnin Rod on the record instead of my artist name, Jalal, for people to make the connection between the last poets. But honestly, I don't think it would have changed anything. It would have changed the disagreement within the contracts. It wouldn't have changed the problem that it wouldn't get any radio play. But this record was the fundamental work to create a new genre, hip-hop and rap. So thanks for watching a little interesting episode about hip-hop and rap. But honestly, even if it's not so much my genre, rap and hip-hop, the music on it is just fantastic. And it's a very important record to create a new genre. And it's just, in my opinion, absolutely great. So, once again, thanks for watching. I'm wishing you guys a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy, listen to good music, maybe Lightnin Rod, and I'll see you next time.